Mr. Narrate, I would like to take a couple of housekeeping things off our plate. First of all, I know you were expecting Roger Thoreau to be our keynote speaker this morning. Roger emailed us yesterday, told us that he had face planted in the snow and looked like he had gone 15 rounds in a prize fight. So he declined the invitation to come with many regrets. We would have enjoyed Roger. His books, nonetheless, are still on sale. At the bottom of the escalators, if you would turn and go to the back, are a series of displays, and his books are available back there. It's also a tremendous honor for us to have His Excellency, Ambassador Kadar from Bangladesh. Ambassador, would you please stand? My first Universities Fighting World Hunger Summit was when I visited in Auburn. I'm from Kansas, and when I arrived in Auburn in March, the tornado siren went off in the hotel. And I thought that was a little puzzling. And then we had the summit, and then I had the joy of driving back in a driving blizzard all the way to Atlanta. And I truly thought we were still in Kansas. And as I sat in that group of young college students and was so impressed with the enthusiasm of what they had accomplished already. And I talked to June and Harriet afterwards, and I said, one of these days, if I have anything to do with it, we're going to have the summit in Kansas. It's been a long time, and there's been a lot of work that's gone into it, thanks to the planning committee. But it's a true pleasure to finally host it here in Kansas. 2 years ago, I was standing with the falling snow at the University of Guelph in Canada, watching a young man that had just completed a 500-mile run from Washington, D.C. to the University of Guelph. I was standing there along Dr. Hinton and Dr. Giles, and Dr. Abel Mason from Kansas had been at that conference as well, and Dr. Alastair Summerlee, as this young man who had ran the equivalent of 17 marathons in consecutive days plus a 10K. He at times ran in boots because of the snow and the ice. And I was taken with the idea that one person can inspire so many different people to do so many different things about hunger. Later at that conference, I had the joy of listening to Dr. Alastair Summerlee, who is the president of the University of Guelph. And in this big room, as he was speaking and doing such a mesmerizing job, I looked down and I thought, he's barefoot. He's wearing a three-piece suit, and you know, it's one of those things that's so out of character. You kind of scratch your head and go, am I that far away? Are my bifocals working? Is he really barefoot? It's a pleasure to have Dr. Alastair Summerlee visit with us this morning. He is a passionate humanitarian, a dedicated teacher, and an internationally renowned researcher. Dr. Summerlee was appointed as the 7th president of the University of Guelph in 2003. Under his leadership, the University of Guelph has become preeminent among Canadian universities with a strong reputation for civic engagement and volunteerism. In receipt of a prestigious 3M teaching fellowship, the first president-elect in North America to be awarded this honor, Dr. Summerlee has continued to teach undergraduate students, supervise graduate students, and organize educational field trips for students. Dr. Summerlee has attracted significant monies to support research in the fields of cancer biology, iron deficiency anemia in women, and HIV/AIDS in the Aboriginal populations. Dr. Summerlee spent 6 years as the chair of the board of the World University Service of Canada, one of the leading international development agencies in Canada, and became involved in humanitarian issues in Africa, particularly in the refugee camps in Kenya, where he has been working for the last 7 years. In the fall of 2012, Dr. Summerlee received the award of the highest honor from Soka University in Japan, along with the 2012 International Quality of Life Award from Auburn University. Let's give a wonderful, warm welcome for Dr. Alastair Summerlee.
Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you to everybody for asking me to be the stand-in. I hope I'm not going to be a letdown for those of you who wanted to hear Peru speak. I suppose I'm standing here as a lesson to you all to keep your mouths shut. And I'm poignantly reminded that I promised myself I would never do this kind of thing after I was attending a very large cross-province collection of people from the equine world. How many of you own or are associated with horses? Well, I'm just about to lose you because I'm going to offend you. People who own or ride horses are generally very special. And they're also very different, actually, depending upon what kind of horse you own, what you do with your horses. And so they're not a very cohesive group of people, but we managed to collect 500 of these together for a gala. And I'm standing next door to the organizer, and she says on the phone to somebody, "What do you mean you don't have the tape for the national anthem?" Well, you know what's coming next, don't you? Because I said, "I'll sing it." And then I thought, what the hell did you say? And so into the auditorium, on a pony and trap, came all the dignitaries and me. And I had to step off with a microphone and sing, "Oh Canada." Well, you can tell from my accent that I'm not actually originally Canadian. And so all the way in, I'm going, I'm going to forget the words, like the guy did just recently when he was trying to sing in Florida. Anyway, probably because it was such an idiot standing there with the microphone in the middle of a field, basically, with a funny accent. Suddenly, all 500 people joined together and sang with me, and we became the most cohesive group of equine enthusiasts I think the world has ever seen. So, I promised myself at that point I would never say, "Oh, I'll do it." And what have I just done? So it was chance, I think, that I should walk in to the building and bump into April Mason, who very cleverly, I don't know how many of you know April, but beware of her. Because she's awfully cunning. Because when I said, "Oh, how are you?" she said, she put on this really sad face, and she said, "Well, I've just got this terrible news. Peru can't come. I just got out of a meeting. I don't know what we're going to do." And when I said, "Well, I'll do it if you like," she said, "Oh, I was going to ask you anyway." So chance. Chance, and in fact, those serendipitous occasions when something happens that puts you in the right place, or in my case, the wrong place, at the right time. If you look it up in the dictionary, serendipity talks about the fact that it's a happy circumstance, a pleasant surprise, a connection. In fact, I don't know how many of you know E.M. Forster's book, Howard's End, but it begins with the words, "Only connect." And so what I would like to do is to connect 4 things. I'd like to connect a handful of dust, a string of beads, an iron fish, and a mosquito. So let me begin with a handful of dust. The very first time that I had the privilege of visiting Africa, I was on a plane next door to somebody. I'm very antisocial when I travel. I hate people who talk to me. And this guy turned to me and said, "So why are you going to go to Africa?" And I don't know, the inner voice inside me said, I have a destiny in Africa. And it really was, but it felt like one of those cartoon things where you're going and talking to people on outside. What did you say? I don't know. What did you say? I had no idea that I would say that, but something deep inside me, something that I had no idea about, caused me to say, I have a destiny in Africa. And he said, well, that's great, because once the dust of Africa touches you, you can never wash it off. And I've been back to many countries in Africa, every one of them full of dust, and every one of them leaving an indelible mark on me and a commitment that I have a destiny in Africa. So they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. What I want you to do is to imagine pictures that you can see on the screen.